All right, thanks for tuning back in. I'm Dave, and this is Save America Vote Tulsi Gabbard. You know, I hadn't planned on doing another video right away today, but I stumbled on some amazing stuff from Fox News yesterday. And a dude by the name of Leland, who I think was filling in for Chris Wallace. I don't know. I don't really care. I don't watch Fox News Sunday. Even when I was over on the right side of things, Chris Wallace to me is another establishment tool. So here's how the interview. Now this thing is being spread around as a sort of meme about Tulsi Gabbard and the Mueller investigation and how we need to move on. And that's an awesome position, by the way. And the more I read Glenn Greenwald and other people on this, they're dissecting the Mueller report, by the way, and they're finding line after line that, you know, the media is going to turn it around the other way, but everything seems to validate the fact that there was no collusion and that they were trying to find collusion any way they could, but they just couldn't find it. So the beginning of this interview begins, you know, pleasant enough.
Hey, Tulsi Gabbard, joining us from the state of New Hampshire. You're going to spend a long time up there over the next year or so. Good to see you.
Aloha, Leland. Good to talk to you.
All right. Happy Easter to you and yours. As we look at this, you put out a statement that said it is time to move on beyond this divisive issue.
Okay, so they're going to talk about the Russia collusion thing, and okay, the interview is going fairly well until now. I'm not sure at what point it completely breaks down, but he asks about Sri Lanka and what happened in Sri Lanka yesterday. Horrible terrorist attack. All right, unbelievable what happens during this exchange, though. And I want to play pieces of it for you here. Here's Tulsi.
More injured and wounded. When we look to our foreign policy, we can see how there are many problems that need to be addressed. If the intelligence reports that are coming out around this terrorist attack in Sri Lanka are proven to be true, and the investigation is ongoing to see who is actually responsible, but the early intelligence reports point to
some weird noises during this. This isn't coming from my computer. This is one thing about this guy Leland, who's doing this interview with Tulsi, is he, in the background you hear him going like that while she's talking. I mean, almost, and Brett Baer did this the other day too, kind of like he had to just have his voice make these sounds, almost as if, you know, if you're trying to concentrate and focus, imagine somebody talking in your ear, or you're hearing them kind of babbling and you're trying to focus on what you. So this is a tactic or a technique to try to get somebody to lose their train of thought. Just throwing that in there. I don't think anybody else has talked about this, so I figured I'd give my 2 cents.
a terrorist group in Sri Lanka that adheres to this same most extreme, exclusivist and intolerant form of Islam that fuels
Right, but if
terrorist
America pulls
organizations
back
like
around the
Al-Qaeda
world from taking
and
these
ISIS.
groups on,
Okay,
if America pulls back from taking these groups on, doesn't it just allow more attacks like this?
She hadn't finished her sentence. Well, if America pulls back, you mean if we tamp down on the warfare state, where she's trying to explain about Saudi Arabia and Wahhabism. She's trying to explain it to this guy. This guy is a clown. If you could, you know, again, I don't have, these videos are all recorded on my phone, so I don't have, you know, I know there's technology where you can flip the screen and you can watch portions of this, but if you could just see this guy's smug, this is the smuggest looking anchor I've ever seen. And I've seen a lot of smug anchors, but just, he's like, you know, this, I can't imitate it, but it's bad. Let's continue.
We need to take the threat of terrorism very seriously. As a soldier, I enlisted after the attacks on 9/11 to take on these terrorist groups who attacked us and who took thousands.
Who does that? Like if you, a parent or a kid talking to each other. That's the kind of stuff that kids do to parents. Like, yeah, and I mean, this guy is a tool. He is a tool.
Of American lives. Soldiers, service members, people across the country who enlisted after 9/11 take this threat very seriously, which is why we are so offended and angered by actions that this administration has taken to cozy up to and to support the interests of countries like Saudi Arabia, who are the #1 propagator of this very same ideology that fuels terrorist groups like Al-Qaeda and ISIS.
I think it's fair to say that the Saudis have cracked down on Wahhabism
around the world.
The Saudis have cracked down on Wahhabism in a pretty significant way. You, on the other...
All right, it's one thing to be a propaganda channel, but this goes beyond it, because who has said that Saudi Arabia has cracked down on Wahhab? Where is that report? Who's saying it? Is that one of those Donald Trumps? Well, everybody knows it. You know, like who Donald? Who knows it? Let's give us some names. Who knows it?
On the other hand, have gone and met with Bashar Assad and said the U.S. should essentially try to take our boot off his neck.
So he immediately transitions to Assad. Unbelievable. So we went from Saudi Arabia to Syria. All right, let's continue. This thing, I tell you what, get the duct tape and just tape. Your head's going to want to explode.
I want to correct you on this. The Saudis have not cracked down on the spread of Wahhabism. They continue to spend billions of dollars spreading this ideology around the world, which is providing this fertile recruiting ground, which is fueling terrorist organizations like ISIS and Al-Qaeda.
He just goes, I mean, is this like the high school teacher getting the answer from the student? Again, as Jimmy Dore would do in a segment, this is where Tulsi Gabbard is teaching this complete loser. He's a complete loser. I mean, again, I hate to just judge on personal appearances alone here, the way someone looks, but it's more his smug look, the coiffed hair. Just I'm in control of this interview, Tulsi, and you're not. So it's going to get worse. Listen to this.
It is a country that continues to provide direct and indirect support to terrorist groups
could you
like
try to answer my question about Assad? How does taking... I
want to stop.
I understand that we can disagree on the issue. We can disagree on the issue.
We are talking about this administration.
What about Iran? Should we have our foot on the neck of Iran?
To share my views on these issues.
Unbelievable. So we went from Syria, we went from Saudi Arabia to Syria to Iran. What should we do? What would she's trying to answer what we would do, bozo. Unbelievable. This is some of the worst propaganda I've heard on television. And I know Fox is bad. I know they're bad, but this is beyond what they normally are. Whoever this clown is, he shouldn't be on television.
I'm trying to share them, and you're not allowing me to do so, and that's unfortunate because these are issues that threaten the safety and security.
He then laughs. You're not interviewing a hostile witness, Leland. She's not a hostile witness. She's trying to answer your questions. This is going to be a hard go for us, for people that really want the United States to not intervene every single time. So there's a bombing in Sri Lanka. So are we supposed to carpet bomb Sri Lanka now? I mean, are we going to drone them? What are we going to do? Unbelievable. This guy is just a tool for the establishment.
The American people. You made a statement that is false about Saudi Arabia.
Good.
And no, ma'am. Directly to
no, ma'am. No. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I did not. No, ma'am. You did. You actually you did. You made a false statement, and she's trying to correct you. And I froze it, and his face is like, this is an incredible exchange. It goes on now for another I don't know how this is going to end. I actually haven't watched the ending.
Administration has taken in continuing to support the interests of Saudi Arabia, continuing to take sides in this
you've made your point about Saudi Arabia. Let's move on to Iran.
Congresswoman.
Ma'am, you've made your point about Saudi Arabia. Let's move on to Iran. Should the United States have its boot on the neck of the Iranian regime that supports terror all around the world, or not? Because you have a policy of taking our boot off the neck of one of Iran's closest allies, which is Bashar Assad. So with respect to Iran, yes.
That has nothing to... Oh my gosh. I need duct tape. Taking the boot off of Assad? I mean, do we drop missiles on a country because we think they gas their own people, yet there's no evidence? We can't, it's not concrete evidence, and I know there's been reports that, you know, agencies outside of the CIA have done that suggests that they didn't use weapons on their own people, at least when Ivanka Trump was telling her father that we needed to go and help those kids because they were all gassed by their own people, which was most likely false. And our missiles, anyway, they missed the targets. And this guy has gone from Saudi Arabia to, I'm losing track, to Iran. Well, he went Saudi Arabia to Syria to Iran. And this is Sri Lanka. Originally, we were talking about Sri Lanka, right?
Yes or no? Should the United States be tough on them and continue to try to force regime change?
First of all, let me be clear about you are completely twisting and misconstruing my policies.
Thank you.
And you're not really giving me the chance to convey clearly what they are. When we're talking about terrorists, who attacked us on 9/11? The majority of those who attacked us on 9/11, did they come from Iran?
All but one came from Saudi Arabia.
Did they?
I said all but one came from Saudi Arabia.
Point exactly. That is my point exactly.
Well, who killed all the Marines in the Beirut barracks?
No,
if you want to go terror attack for terror attack, we can.
You're not
answering the question.
Okay. Points here. I am very clearly answering your questions, but you continue to try to divert away from the facts and the truth that I'm presenting to you and
he's
to
laughing
your viewers about the threats that face us.
Ma'am. You know, folks, I don't usually this interview, as far as just having like good table manners or whatever, this interview is a joke. It's a joke. It's a purposeful takedown of Tulsi Gabbard. Yeah, they're getting her on TV here. And under the guise and the premise of Tulsi says, let's move on from the Mueller investigation. That was what the first part of the interview was about. But then quickly we switch over to Sri Lanka. All right, there's like 20 seconds left. Let's see how this ends.
Thus, in this
it's tough. I asked you a specific question. I asked you a specific question about Iran. We didn't get an answer. We got to leave it there. We appreciate it. Thank you for being here. We'll have you back anytime.
Have a great day.
You too. Happy Easter.
Wow. Have a great day. Happy Easter, Tulsi. Wow. I'm speechless. I'm really speechless. So you heard that exchange. I played it for you. What part of the exchange was unfair? Pretty much all of it. She's trying to answer your question, and you're filibustering her. Your view of foreign policy is we go from country to country and bomb the crap out of them because that's worked out so well for us. And that's America first, right? That's what Donald Trump ran on. America first. Let's bomb every country so we can show how we put American citizens first. Just from a strictly constitutional and foreign policy angle, this isn't what the founders wanted for us. This isn't. If you want to call that selfish because we're not going to intervene everywhere there's terrorism, call it selfish, okay?